When I started my little business, I had no idea that it would take me to receiving DMs from Stadtguy, Miren, United Arab Emirates royalty, Australian billionaires, and Rockefeller. Thanks to networking, I actually met my husband too. I quickly learned that the biggest value from my clout is not the financial one, but the people who I meet along the way. But the wide network and respect doesn't serve value if you do not know how to maintain the relationships. And not to sound like a brat, even though I am one, I'm quite an expert in this field. Because of my privilege and rich parents, I was taught how to play into people's desires before I even learned how to walk. So today, I will tell you where to seek the right people and how to stay connected to them while turning your network into your net worth. Let's start with the basics. Confidence looks better than modesty. Learn how to pitch yourself. When people ask you, "So what do you do?" and you respond, "Not much," why would they continue talking to you if you yourself do not know what value you are providing? Let's roleplay, guys. What do you do? Not much. I have a media production. Over the past year and a half, I grew my audience to 700,000 people thanks to my IT background at the company which I helped to go public. By making statements, you understand what type of questions you're gonna receive. And that's how you navigate the conversation. Before we continue this episode, I want to debunk a common myth. People often think that networking comes naturally to the confident and outgoing people. However, what we do not see is the invisible baggage which they carry into every room. Past rejections, fear of judgment, and insecurities. The ability to start a conversation doesn't mean that somebody is comfortable doing that. It means they do not let the fear stop them. That's why I want to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp, for making this episode possible. Despite being a public figure myself, I used to have a fear of public speaking because of my imposter syndrome. Therapy helped me to understand where those fears were coming from and gave me tools to overcome it. One thing that therapy taught me is that anxiety and excitement feel almost identical in your body. Instead of telling myself that I'm nervous, I started telling myself that I'm excited, and it genuinely changed how I show up. BetterHelp is entirely online, so it works around your schedule. Fill in a quick questionnaire and you'll be matched with a licensed therapist who understands you and your needs. If you're dealing with uncertainty, fear, or pressure to succeed, remember, you do not have to do it alone. Head to betterhelp.com/privilegefew to get 10% off your first months. Because sometimes the biggest obstacle between you and the right connection isn't the right person, but the voice in your head telling you not to try. And now, let's get back to our episode. I recently watched a Stanford lecture where Tom Friel said that your network is way bigger than you can imagine. And as he was saying this, I was like, yeah, well, it's probably around 1,000 people. And then he said,
I mean, you start with the people in the room, you start with everybody they know, you start with people that they know, literally as being hundreds of thousands of people.
As he was saying this, I had no idea that Rockefeller is a part of my network. But before I tell you how I met him, let's take a step back. First, you have to approach people who are already in your network. You have to think, how can they help you? Who do they know? As the professor says in the lecture, the majority of people are willing to help you if you ask for help. But nobody is willing to do your homework for you. That's why you have to come with a specific request and you have to advocate for yourself. Why do you want somebody to connect you with a particular person? Because when you are asking somebody for a favor like this, you have to understand that they're putting their reputation on a line for you. And if you can advocate for yourself and if they feel pretty confident that you would be a good connection, then they will do this. But first, you have to come prepared. If somebody ends up connecting you, you have to remember that you have to report back to the middleman. As a sign of respect, you have to tell them how the meeting went and not just ghost them after the favor was done. This is actually how you maintain the relationships. After people do something for you, you show your sign of respect. Now, back to Rockefeller. So how did I actually meet him? Last summer, I got an email from a man named John. He was Harvard University alumni, and he reached out to me and said, I love your content. Let's hop on a Zoom meeting. I didn't know what to expect from it back then, but as it turned out, John is working in the family office space. And as we started talking, he told me, we constantly have a problem of approaching young rich kids, and your channel is doing great at it. So he wanted to discuss it further, so he invited me to Harvard Club. As a result, I flew back to Boston because I thought that this meeting has a high potential. As I came to the Harvard Club and met John for the first time face to face, we sat down and he told me, Albina, look around. We're at Harvard Club and the average age of the member is 70 years old. Currently, the biggest wealth transfer is happening in the world, but we have a problem. We do not know how to target rich kids, and you can help us with this. So as we were sitting at this meeting, we started to brainstorm a few different ideas, and he told me that he can help privileged few with finding different guests. That's actually how we had Roberta on our channel, a daughter of Argentina's billionaire. Would you consider yourself successful if you didn't have your financial privilege today?
I would consider myself very successful because, like I said, I became the master of networking and I became the master of cultivating the richest and most valuable relationships.
So what John would do, he would just send an email to those people because they were a part of his network, and he would CC me to this, and that's how he would introduce us. When it would come to the personal meeting, the success of it would already depend on me. But if it wasn't for John, I wouldn't be able to get in touch with those people in the first place. So one day, I received another email. This is John introducing me to Rockefeller. Oh my God, is this actually happening? That same night, I booked a train to New York City. At 4 a.m., I was standing at the train station because our meeting was at 11:30 a.m. As I arrived to New York, I went straight to my hotel to quickly drop my bag and to change, but my room wasn't ready yet. As a result, as I was preparing for one of the most important meetings of my life, I was changing in the bathroom.
Ребят, готовлюсь к одной из самых важных встреч в нашей жизни в туалете, потому что номер у меня не готов. Outfit of the day. Let's go.
But it didn't end there. Then I tried to catch Uber. But it was raining and the traffic was insane. That's why I just started running through the rain. But as I was running, I remember how I called my dad and I told him, Dad, I'm on the way to the Rockefeller Center to meet with Rockefeller. That was the first time when the thought crossed my mind, shit, I might actually surpass Dad in my success, because I do not remember him meeting with Rockefeller. Anyways, the meeting went great. And as I sat down in the Uber, the first thing I did was text John and tell him how the meeting went. Remember that I told you that as a sign of respect, you have to report to the person who connected you? That's exactly what I did. Never undermine the value of the middleman in your success. If you want to become a part of the Privileged Few network, then subscribe to our Patreon, because the smaller the circle is, the deeper the connection. Listen, do not talk. When meeting new people, you have to let them talk for 80% of the time. The other 20%, you're just asking questions. That's a good strategy, because people love talking about themselves. And you will leave a good impression. Prepare questions ahead of time. When I worked in corporate, I asked one of the most incredible women to be my mentor. She was extremely busy, and the fact that she agreed to be my mentor and dedicate 30 minutes of her week to me meant really a lot. That's why I knew that I cannot just waste those 30 minutes. And I was preparing the questions ahead of time. The way I was asking questions was to make sure that she gets to talk about her personal experience. But this is the type of experience which would benefit me too. For example, how did you manage to grow so fast in a male-dominated industry? That applied directly to her story, and that was something which was important for me to grow down the line. As a result of this mentorship, I got promoted to senior problem manager. I was reporting directly to our CTO at the company with over 5,000 employees at the age of 25. On the other hand, when I was meeting people like Roberta for the first time, I would go full-on investigative journalist type of mode. I would look into all of the information which I can find about them online, I would look into their interviews and note what type of questions they do not like receiving and what type of questions get them excited. The right questions can lead you to the important answers. Keep the records. After each meeting, when I sit at the Uber, the next thing I do is document the entire meeting. Why? Well, there are two reasons for that. First, I want to make sure that I have something to review before the next time I meet them, and if I remember the small details about that person, they will feel special. The second reason is to stay connected to them by remembering the important days in their lives. So when it's their birthday or anniversary, you should always congratulate them. And that's how you start a long-lasting relationship. And that leads me to the second part of the video: how to stay connected with those people. Anyone can meet anybody. You probably had so many meaningful connections in your life which you just didn't know how to maintain. And as a result of this, you probably lost some opportunities along the way. So here's how to stay connected without seeming too pushy, because that can be a problem as well. Send a thank you message. It seems like it's so obvious and I shouldn't even mention this, but you'd be surprised how many people actually do not do this. It's the simple things which will make you stand out in the crowd. For example, after each meeting, I always email or send a text to a person where I include the details about our meeting, and I say, I really liked your take on this philosophy. I already ordered Brothers Karamazov to reread it with your new perspective. I hope you will have fun in Disneyland with your family next week, and here's my contact information so we can stay in touch. Don't send cold emails. From an early age, I was taught one simple rule: never show up empty-handed. When people open up the doors of their home to you, make sure you're a good guest. Bring a bottle of wine to a man and make sure that you also bring flowers to his wife. Write a handwritten letter to make them feel special. And talking about handwritten letters, guys, when it's somebody's birthday or special occasion, stop sending texts. I know that so many people say they do this because they're Gen Z and that's the cool way to approach it. It's always better to speak on the phone for 30 seconds than to send a long message to somebody. Quick story, when I got engaged, I only remember people who called me, not the ones who texted me. People underestimate the power of connecting others. Many people think that I do not have any skills, therefore I do not know what type of value I can provide to others. But what if I told you that the biggest value which you can provide to anybody is just by connecting people and actually just being a middleman? Dan Martell says that the book Never Eat Alone completely changed his life and led investments from people like Mark Cuban into him. How? Because he executed the dinner strategy.
One of the best ways to build relationships, deep, meaningful connections with people, is to break bread with them. The currency of networking is not greed, but generosity.
Appear on social media. I know that right now it's considered more cool to be low-key on social media. By occasionally posting, especially about your job, you are open to new opportunities. As a matter of fact, the whole PF team was hired because of social media and networking. For example, Timur, our operations director. When I was looking to fill in this role, I reached out to my husband and I told him that we need to fill in this role desperately. My husband reached out to his network and somebody got back to him and they recommended Timur. They sent his portfolio, and the reason why they thought of him is because Timur was occasionally showing his work on social media. Not showing what you do equals to missing opportunities. Moreover, occasionally posting online creates an illusion that you are staying in touch with your friends. That's why I actually never unfollow anybody. When your friends post about their accomplishments, always make sure to congratulate them. My parents told me about the easiest rule. When your friends start any business, be the first client. It doesn't matter if they sell things which you do not care about, just be there to support them. And I can easily apply this to myself, because when I started posting videos and nobody was watching them, my bridesmaid Sona was always sending me a 10-minute audio message of her reflection of every video which I posted. Maybe if she didn't send me so much encouragement back then, you wouldn't be watching this video now, because you really don't understand how much support means to you when you are starting something new. And it's not hard. So do support your friends like you support some of the influencers who actually do not know you. Finally, I want to tell you a story which completely changed my perspective on networking. When my father was a young man, he was around 20 years old and he was just starting to make money, he came across this man who we will call Peter in this story. Peter was around 50 years old and he became something between a mentor and father figure to my dad. He was opening many doors for my dad. He was the middleman we just discussed. And because of that, my dad got a lot of opportunities. One time, Peter had a birthday and he invited a lot of cool people. Government officials, billionaires, and my dad. As everybody was sitting at the dinner table, my dad was somewhere behind and then Peter just said, "Come here, I want you to sit right next to me." And that meant so much for my father. Some billionaires were sitting at the end of the table, but Peter treated my dad like son, and that's why he wanted him close. A decade later, my father became extremely successful and he started making a lot of money. And one time he got a business proposal. He thought of Peter right away because he knew that he would be able to make so much money out of this deal. That's why my dad drove to another city where Peter was living. And he started pitching this idea to Peter. My dad thought that's the right thing to do. My dad is new money, nobody taught him anything about networking. So as he was pitching this, Peter just stopped him. And he said, "If you will come to me with another proposal like this is going to be the end of our friendship. I'm helping you, not because I'm looking for some financial gain out of this, but because I want to support you." My dad apologized and left. Luckily, Peter wasn't the type of man who holds grudges. That's why he was able to forgive my dad. But my dad would tell me this story at least every 3 weeks as a warning that some relationships are way bigger than financial gain. If there is one thing I want you to remember from this video, is that networking is not some Machiavellian strategy. It's about treating every relationship like it matters, because it does. You start growing when you stop asking, what can I get out of this person? And instead asking, how can I become easy to root for? Because in the end of the day, money fades away, but people remember how you made them feel. So the question is, do the people who support you feel appreciated or merely useful? Like, subscribe, and as always, do whatever you want with this information.